Right off the bat, these two trees are clipping into each other so much that they've practically merged into one. Frisk walks on this ice as if it's just some normal concrete sidewalk. She's not even doing a Canadian shuffle or anything, just straight up waltzing across it perfectly fine. Wait, why does Frisk even have a female body? The whole reason they were designed androgynously was to allow the player to insert themselves into Frisk's shoes a lot easier. Also, the age of Frisk isn't specified, but going off events of the game and the way they act, you can place it around their early to mid-teens, which doesn't exactly track the features of the model. Regardless of artistic liberties, you do have to respect that the creator made them genderless. The snowflakes in this shot just phase through the ground. Whoa there, Frisk. Your eyes are awfully glossy. Have you been crying? Are you okay? Also, Frisk has no ears. Their hair just bends to make the impression of an ear.
I said patella. I barely know her.
Sans, stop your tomfoolery.
Papyrus goes from being bent over in shame in his first shot to standing straight up with the same arm positions. Must have gained back a few vertebrae between shots. Sans' walking animation is so stiff. He looks like he's walking on stilts.
We are here to stand guard. Wait here and keep your eyes out for humans.
Sans went from looking at his goofy brother to staring off at the distance. Also, there's less glow coming from his eyes in this shot than the previous one. Papyrus's teeth clip into themselves. That's gotta hurt.
Eyes out. My eyes came out years ago.
Between these two shots, Sans' model changes, his mouth goes from squared to smooth, the actual expression of it changes, and Papyrus changes positions. Finally, the lighting rig goes from a rather confusing setup with multiple key lights to having none, or at the very least, having them dimmed quite a bit. Yes, I too retract my teeth upwards when I talk. And that's the last the clipping we'll accept for this round of Will It Sin? Yes, it will sin. Sans shrugging was very linear. Sans is a skeleton, folks, not a robot. At no point during a walk cycle are both feet meant to be off the ground, but I guess Papyrus's floaty walk cycle wants to be the Newton of our generation and reinvent the laws of physics. Uh-oh, this snowflake starts off falling, then floats up, and then back down, even though there's no wind. Yeah, it's just got some sick moves, dude. Okay, there is absolutely no way they just snapped that twig. Actually, I can't even call that a twig. It's more like a branch with how thick it is. Frisk's top is a low-cut, long-sleeved V-neck here, but it's generally accepted that they're wearing a sweater, which, you know, makes a lot more sense given where they are right now. There seems to be a bit of a glitch on Frisk's sleeve here, causing you to see their arm underneath.
Well, what do we got here?
Where's the source of this light on Sans? It seems to come from the right side of the screen, but then switches sides when he turns his head. Without a hint of wind, two snowflakes breeze behind Sans at the end of the scene.
They call me Sans. I'm the seraph of these parts.
Sans' feet glue themselves to the ground once they remember that he needs to act on gravity. Neither Sans nor Frisk are looking at each other. Remember, kids, when framing your shots, eye lines are incredibly important. Whether it's making sure two talking characters in consecutive shots are looking at each other, or even two characters in the same shot making eye contact. Frisk gets pulled towards Sans before he even touches them. Also, it seems as if Sans dislocates his shoulder to grab Frisk.
Yeah, just kidding. I work on a grease card.
Frisk goes from having one hand grab to holding on to Sans with both hands. Frisk looks really buff for someone who's supposed to be 7 years old. In no universe can you convince me that a cart would have square wheels. Well, maybe in Canada they do.
And there he is, the Prince of Canada.
Also, it jitters slightly as it comes to a stop.
Grilling up hot dogs and genocidal toddlers.
Oops, another lighting and pose change. Frisk eyes don't fully close as they blink here.
Please just look into my eyes, see my funny tight face.
Oh, not this again. Sans has got swords for elbows. Last time I checked, skulls and bones don't bend and crease like skin. The hot dog cart from before is gone, and we never see it again.
I'm really quite a nice guy, but if you pick a fight, I will hunt you all your life through time and space.
Sans gets half a pass here because he doesn't have tendons or muscles, but most people can't raise their ring finger without also raising their pinky finger.
If I feel a little hubris.
Nice to know Sans has a black spot where C1 vertebrae should connect to skull and spine. Maybe following anatomy a bit closer instead of having this giant hole would have helped. Frisk isn't even really looking at Sans here, again. Apparently something on the ground looks particularly alarming.
Sans, who's there, you ridiculous scamp?
Has Papyrus been standing behind that tree for the last 40 seconds? Sans has a black void in his mouth, yet Papyrus has a gray wall. I would have accepted another black void, honestly. At least it adds a bit of contrast.
No one, it's just an inconspicuous lamp.
Did Sans just pull that lampshade out of his prison wallet? Ugh. That's some strange lighting on Frisk's left hand. Sans' eyes disappear in a frame as he turns to cover Frisk. Sans went from standing about 2 feet away from Frisk to suddenly being about 6 feet away in order to slide into shot.
If you ever meet a skeleton of towels and some Weddleton, just humor him and let him win and think that he's a champ.
Sans' head goes from being about 2/3 the size of the lampshade to tiny in comparison. Also, Sans is taller than Frisk, so he'd have to be doing some kind of mega squat here in order to talk to Frisk under the lampshade. This goes well beyond using a Scully box, a concept we talked about before. This is more like bending the rules of the world's geometry. Where'd Papyrus go? Did he just slink back behind the tree off screen? I know we already bulk send all the clipping, but too bad. Here's one more for good measure. Sans moves the lampshade right through Frisk's head.
I bet you think you never met a skeleton. Well, I bet you met a ton. They just had a bunch of gooey melanin to flesh upon.
There's zero anticipation as Sans' arms jump back to him. They're stiff, and then all of a sudden they're flying through the air. Sans goes from having open arms to putting his right arm behind his back from one shot to the next. This giant overexposed light doesn't have a source.
The devil one was in the upper echelon, a clever.
Frisk's hair bugs out and gets pulled off to the side here.
You best prepare for a hilariously bad time.
In between shots, some magic lights appear to light up Sans' head to the point of overexposure.
Every human one day ends up.
The back of Mike Wazowski's monster mouth is pure white. If this ground is supposed to be metal, as the surface material implies, then there is absolutely no way Mike Wazowski man over here dug into it with that shovel.
Way down. Yeah, a human.
Frisk fell stomach first, but then lands on their back in the next shot. The snow particles show up before Frisk even hits the pile. Also, this one gives up trying to behave like a real glob of kicked up snow, and just comes to a hard stop, keeping the exact same shape. Underground daytime. I'll just let you process why that doesn't work.
Yeah, a human. Call the guards. Wait a minute, that's my job.
Papyrus' skull model experiences a glitch where a chunk under his cheekbones goes missing for a few frames. Papyrus' gloves and scarf cast red glows. Papyrus' jaw slacks off to the side for a few frames.
To capture a Nabio won't be hard. This maze is made with electric charge.
And suddenly, KDA makes a reappearance with a pink glow. You know, if Frisk was really smart, they would have just, walked around. I would remove every sin right now if Papyrus just stepped onto the maze and electrocuted himself.
Papyrus snaps it out and ready. His medals on my arm already. Some spaghetti.
Papyrus' pin suddenly changes between shots just for the spaghetti bit. Papyrus' hand is kind enough to give itself motion blur before it even starts to move. A little lighting glitch causes shadows here, 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 and here before Papyrus' head shows up beside him. Also, Papyrus' neck is connected to literally nothing here.
Oh, that is good spaghetti. Where was I?
Papyrus' finger becomes a bit too reflective for a frame here.
With the culinary skills, leave you flambe.
The cleaver doesn't even touch the board when Papyrus slices the salami, and yet it's shown that the cut went all the way through. That last slice should have been like a tenth of the size it is here. Also, this must be one wide knife, because last time I checked, cleavers don't have a curve on their edge.
It's a shame that after you taste my blade, you won't have space for my bolognese.
Papyrus' cleaver straight up becomes a lightsaber before he spins it. Also, how nice of Papyrus' cleaver to spin perfectly in place whilst in the air. Alas, Papyrus falls victim to an age-old animation error, forgetting how a character is supposed to be positioned from shot to shot. Don't worry, Papyrus. Looks like the animators forgot how the salami was supposed to be placed between shots too. The cleaver goes from having cut completely through the salami to it only hanging off the end.
Sans, is this how you have to behave? I'm trying to challenge this dastardly knave.
Why does Papyrus look this way? Frisk is definitely not here.
Every human one day ends up 6 feet underground.
Wow, Frisk. Start going backwards with this walk cycle and you'd be moonwalking.
But you're heading for a...
Please, for the love of everything on this green earth, stop with the unnecessary hip swaying. This character is meant to be a child.
Trapped deep below, and all you gotta show is your determination. There's no tutorial.
This walk cycle is more of a slide cycle than anything. Part of Frisk's facial ray controllers show up in the render. How do you miss something like that, Seth? Cool location and all, but how did Frisk get here? Like, actually, how?
Who dares disturb me from my slumber?
I get that this is probably not easily avoidable, but having the crack from Gaster's left eye be connected to their mouth, which then proceeds to move and stretch and bend all around, is a little distracting. Hey, animators, do not pose a literal child in this manner, or else I'll have to call the FBI on you. The snow globe starts moving before even being touched. This plate is positioned very awkwardly here. The Integrity Soul doesn't glow as intensely as the others. This Gaster hand opens and closes these tongs without moving a single finger. Frisk lands on nothing. This Gaster hand is holding Frisk by the nothing.
I'm outside of time and space, but I'm afraid you're just out of time.
Careful there, Enchanted Mob. Those leg bends are getting dangerously close to Psycho Girl level of terrible. Not only should your hips not sway while you run, but your arms should consistently move, not randomly sway about. Frisk's model doesn't like being pinched and dragged like that. Frisk went from running on some sort of solid surface to just being launched into the air.
I'll get them next time, Sam.
Papyrus shaking his arm causes a very spastic shadow that I thought was an egregious lighting error at first. In conclusion, this video was good. The models, lighting, and pacing were well done, although some parts could use a bit of polish. Overall, pretty much the quality you expect from Enchanted Mob.
Wazowski.
I also have a specialty and I'm a peaceful I'm a puzzle in a bubble in the stuff of a dream.